Welcome to Joyville. It's a lot funnier in my head when I said that earlier this morning. This is as a platform, a lot of people ask me a very simple question is, what is Joyville? And I think Joyville, if I break it up, is a place where the chocolate is made. And I think it's that place, if you talk about Bourneville, it's that sort of magical place where chocolate is made that we all have on the edge of our reality. You know, there's a magical place that chocolate is made because chocolate should be made in a magical place. And then I think, so that's the product. I think where it's really also exciting is it's a space. It's a space that Cadbury can take you to because joy happens in a million different ways, in a million different places. So I think, quite simply, for me, it's a space and a place. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'll work harder on the advertising. So what I'm going to be taking you through today is 4 different pieces. I'm going to be taking you how we launched Joyville and how we got this idea across. I'm going to be taking you through how we took it into the real world in the first place. Then I'm going to show you what we did with Easter. And then we've just done something now, which many of you might not have seen, which is how do we take joy to Australia. So hopefully what this will demonstrate today is how does Joyville work as a space, and how does it work as a place. And that gives us a certain amount of flexibility, because when Ben's talking about a big campaign that goes globally, how do you have enough wiggle room? How do you have enough stretch? And I think that established the platform. The second objective was how do you take joy into the real world? Because I think it's all very well having a platform and saying that's how the product is made. But I think the real role of Cadbury is to create joy. And that's when I think a brand becomes really interesting. It's got a role, it's got a North Star, it's got a purpose. So bringing Joyville into the real world, this was our first attempt. And trust me, painting a train is not as easy as you think. And getting it through Sydney is not as easy as you think, if anyone wants to try.
Announcement from Joyville. Bing bong! This is a passenger announcement from Joyville. Bing bong! This is a passenger announcement from Joyville.
It all came together. I think the biggest learning for me as a creative is when you do ideas like this, they kind of defy convention. Like, would you say that's experiential, outdoor, ambient, direct? Does it matter? Do you care? So I think the point is when you do an idea like this, modern ideas, I know there was a talk about digital and outdoor today. I think it's the same thing. That's just my view. But I think it was a really good example of where Joyville could go. Then we looked at something where we looked at Easter. I mean, it's obviously a no-brainer for Cadbury to be involved with something like Easter. And it's how do we take something as iconic as the Easter Bunny, and how do we take something as iconic as Joyville and bring them together? I think that just demonstrates where Joyville can go. So I think we established it as a platform, we established the making, and I think that'll always be there, the myth of Joyville. But I think where it gets really interesting is when we start to move, if you look at training, if you look at the Q1 promotion, you start to move joy into the real world. And I think that presents a massive opportunity for Cadbury. And I think the results speak for themselves.
I think we sort of just scratched the surface, but as a marketer, it's really exciting to say, well, yeah, okay, let's try and stretch it over here. And there's some stuff we haven't showed you today. You know, we did an Easter activation last year where you had to dance the chicken dance with purple chickens to get free Easter eggs. And it's amazing what you can get people to do and how joyful they can be to get some chocolate.
Free chocolate.
Right? When you got stretch like that, it creates a great momentum inside, and you know, lots of things become possible. I've got some results. Look, it's left brain stuff, but I'll try and give some context to it. We talk about brand love as something we aspire for, and as if people are prepared to say, yeah, I love your brand, then they're really leaning in and saying, I've got a very heartfelt connection with it. And brand love for Cadbury is pretty high. It's sort of in the 80 percentile. Right? It's up 500 basis points since we launched Joyville, and it's sort of grown as we've gone on. So for us, that's a great leading indicator. Things like market share and revenue and all those sort of things are great. They're lagging indicators. I'm going to say we did a good job. We achieved a result. The leading indicators that I really care about is, well, how are people feeling about what we're doing? What's the connection like? What's that as an indicator of future success? And it's all of that working together as one. It's people's belief that, Marvelous Creations, we said, what better way to launch the idea? So if you want to talk about a space, this is a philosophy, then let's create the space, the place first. So I've got to understand where it's all made. And there's this magical thing about chocolate is that you can't actually make it at home, or it's really, really hard. All right, so there's a kind of alchemy to it, and there's a mystery to it. And thanks to lots of semiotics through stories that are in our mind about how chocolate might be made, what we managed to do was really bring that to life for people. And as Damon said, who doesn't want to believe that chocolate's made that way? And Marvelous Creations was the first child from the Joyville kitchens, and what a perfect sort of surprise. And it's really reignited people's connection back with the brand. It is that trip to Paris that we were looking for. It's that kind of wide-eyed wonderment of childhood and the way people remember chocolate being when they were children, and it's really ignited the spark. And it was a great way to kind of establish the place that the chocolate comes from. The train, the kind of intersection in the world. I was on the platform when that thing rocked in, kind of quietly looking around. I know, it was loud. It's like, toot, toot, here it comes. And the whole way there, it was on Central Station. We were doing kind of warm-ups at the start. And there's you go to the Central Station, there's officers that look down. I mean, the people in the offices looking down on their phones, they're going like this. And right then I looked up and went, okay, this is going to work. Because there's only a few people who can actually see this live. As Damon said, it's actually pretty hard to drive a train around Sydney in peak hour. So there's only a few people who get to interact with it. That's a magical experience. So one guy cried and said, this is the best day of my life,
There's a train
Grown
spotter.
man.
There's a train spotter.
Unbelievable connection, but how do you amplify it? And it's through this sort of connectivity that people taking a photo and wanting to share it is where the amplification happens. And if the event or the experience or whatever we call it, and it is a really intersection, how do you define that as media? It's multiple media. And when that happens is when you get the amplification. And that was the real kind of demonstration of Joyville intersecting with the world and being able to create an experience for people that was real emotional response. I was like, okay, we're doing it. We're actually being joy. We're creating joy for people, and we're capturing real joy live and then sharing it and amplifying it. Easter that's a great brief to have, Like we've got a really strong position in Easter, but believe me, when you're 70-odd share of Easter that we are, it's a tough hill to protect. There's people coming at you from everywhere, right? Lint's doing a great job. Hats off to them. We did some research with consumers, and consumers told us only Cadbury, that's a rabbit. Only Cadbury can be the Easter Bunny. Only Cadbury can own that story. You go, okay, that's an interesting prospect, actually. Oh, okay, Now, all right, we're brave and courageous enough to actually step into the space and claim the Easter Bunny. Well, let's give it a go. Well, let's do it in a way that's Joyville, because you're going to hop, he's got to ride the BMX. You know,
The BMX was cool.
the BMX is cool, right? Of all the pieces of comms, that's the one that's most loved. Train, actually the last three we've done. Train, Easter Bunny, and the Q1 promotion. And again, Q1 is, it's a really big thought. How do you, let's make stuff out of chocolate and tailor it for whatever brings people joy. And you just get such a rich tapestry of response out of that. It becomes campaignable. There's so many places we can go. So yeah, I get I'm a bit excited about it because it doesn't happen very often. And results like this don't happen very often. I've been lucky to steward some big brands in my time, VB, you know, Mars Bar. There's a range of big brands. And it's very rare to put a body of work together where every piece of work significantly outperforms norms on brand linkage, brand recognition, and you know, brand intent. How do I feel? Brand love's up, I'm more likely to buy. All of those pieces of copy, all those pieces of work are outperforming norm, which is driving the top result. The love is up. Penetration's up, you know. People are taking Cadbury into their household more often. More households, more often, and more of it. And that's driven a 6-year share high for us. When you're a 22 share of market and you're more than 1 in $5 purchased, it's actually hard to grow. It's really hard to grow because you're the critical mass. So you've got to do something quite exceptional. And I've never seen a brand of that scale actually deliver the share results that this brand's delivered in the last 12 months. You know, we're up 200 basis points. We've almost taken the brand to 1 in $4 spent on chocolate in the marketplace. And that's driven our share position across blocks and share packs and even count lines, which are the sort of self-pack formats. We're number 1 in each category now for the first time ever. And probably the biggest thing of all is, you know, in this sort of grim environment, and, you know, we heard from Simon today, there's, you know, people are looking for value, right? Value is compelling and important, and it's deflationary, the pricing environment. You know, chocolate today is cheaper than it was 10 years ago. How many people realise that? So in that environment where there's a lot of pricing intensity, and often if you don't have all these other things going, you've got to price heavily to get the results. We're able to take price up on the range last year, and there weren't many brands that were able to do that. And that's what drove, what I would say is a joyful P&L outcome, which is it left or right?
It's both.
Yeah, right. Not sure which side of the brain it is, but it's the one that the people I report to up the line care most about. And
Left.
no, they do care about the brand, but at the end of the day, it is about shareholder returns and you know, growing for everyone. And there's been a particularly joyful profit and loss outcome, financial outcome for the business, where both revenue and profit are growing well ahead of double digits. And I can't be any more specific than that. It's all commercially sensitive, but again, to grow in double digits on a brand of that scale doesn't happen that often. You know, you're mostly looking at low single digits. And there's momentum that's been carried into this year and is continuing. And we think we've got a wonderful pipeline of stuff to come. So for us, it's a pretty joyful spot to be in at the moment. There has a lot of energy and excitement